Just picture this, a mountain, standing all by itself, shaped of all things like a giant stack of wheat. Now, imagine that for over 1,600 years, generation after generation of believers carved a whole city of sanctuaries right into its vertical cliffs. Well, you don't have to imagine it because it's real. This is Maijishan, an absolutely breathtaking monument to faith, carved in stone and clay.
I mean, it's a site that almost doesn't seem real. You've got hundreds of caves all connected by these terrifying-looking wooden walkways just hanging there between heaven and earth. And it all brings you to one single massive question. Why? Why build it here of all places? Why go to such incredible and frankly dangerous lengths?
So to really get our heads around this masterpiece, we're going to take a journey in 4 parts. First, we'll see why it was a true pearl of the Silk Road. Then, we'll get into the unbelievable skill it took to build this kingdom on a cliff. After that, we'll step inside its galleries to meet the famous Eastern Smile. And finally, we'll look at how this ancient legacy is being protected for all of us, for the future.
Okay, so our story kicks off on the ancient Silk Road. You got to picture this bustling highway of trade, of culture, and of new ideas. And it was right here at a super important crossroads that this incredible monument first began to grow.
You know, the name itself, Maijishan, it tells you so much. For the locals and for all the merchants traveling through, its unique, rounded shape looked exactly like a stack of harvested wheat. I mean, a symbol of life itself. And so the name stuck. Wheat Stack Mountain, a true landmark on the horizon.
And listen, this wasn't some quick project. The very first caves were carved way back in the 4th century. But the real creative explosion, that happened during the Northern dynasties, when over 70% of the grottos we can see today were made. And for 1,000 years after that, dynasty after dynasty kept adding to it, fixing it, repainting it, a continuous act of devotion right up until it was named a World Heritage Site in 2014.
Which brings us right back to the how. I mean, how on earth did ancient builders, with no modern machines, create this stunning gallery in the sky? The answer is, well, it's a story of pure genius and just unbelievable guts.
An ancient text gives us a clue, and it honestly sounds like something out of a legend. A writer named Wang Renyu described how workers would stack firewood from the bottom of the mountain all the way to the top, creating this massive scaffold. Then they'd carve the caves and statues from the top down, taking the firewood away level by level as they descended. I mean, it's a feat of human hands that looks like it had to be the work of gods.
What's really fascinating is that the sculptures weren't actually carved from the rock itself. Nope. The artisans used this brilliant technique. It all starts with a wooden skeleton. Then you wrap that in straw to create the body. After that comes a rough layer of clay to get the basic shape. But the real magic is in that final, fine layer of clay, where artists could sculpt these incredibly detailed, serene faces and the delicate folds in their robes. A splash of paint, and you have a masterpiece.
It's just incredible when you see it laid out like this, isn't it? How basic materials, wood, straw, some local clay, were turned into these timeless works of art. This technique was absolutely key. It gave the artists a freedom and an expressiveness they might not have had just carving into solid rock.
So, how did they get around this vertical city? They built these terrifyingly narrow wooden walkways, which have the beautiful, poetic name Cloud Treads. Just try to imagine climbing on these things hundreds of feet up, hauling tools and clay. It's an engineering marvel, just as impressive as the art it was built for.
Okay, so we know how they built it. Now let's step inside. Because Maijishan is so much more than a holy site. It's a living, breathing museum of art. They call it the Eastern Sculpture Gallery, and you can see styles changing across 1,000 years, right on the cliff face.
The numbers here are just mind-boggling. We're talking about more than 7,800 sculptures spread out across almost 200 caves. But what's really amazing is that every single one feels unique. Each has its own character, its own quiet story to tell.
And right here, you can literally watch history evolve in clay. So look at the figure on the left. That's from the Northern Wei dynasty. See how it's so slender, so elegant, almost otherworldly? Now compare that to the figure on the right from the later Sui dynasty. It's fuller, it's more rounded. It just feels more human, more real.
And this really gets to the heart of the artistic shift that happened here. That early style, they call it slender bones, pure visage, was all about conveying a sense of spirituality, something beyond our world. But over time, the art moved toward that full and rounded style,
which reflected a more humanistic faith, one that was grounded in the beauty and reality of the world around them.
And here it is. This is the soul of Maijishan, the famous Eastern smile. Just look at the expression on this bodhisattva. It isn't a big, happy grin. It's this subtle, incredibly peaceful, and deeply compassionate look. It's an expression of inner tranquility that has just mesmerized people for more than 1,500 years.
The art here isn't just beautiful, it gets you right in the heart. This sculpture shows the moment Shakyamuni Buddha meets his son, Rahula, for the first time after becoming enlightened. Look at his hand. It's outstretched, frozen in this state of about to touch, but not yet touching. And in that one simple gesture, the artist captured an entire universe of emotion: fatherly love, loss, and this divine sense of compassion. It's just wow.
And these grottos hold real human stories too, some of them tragic. Cave 43 isn't just a cave, it's a tomb, known as the Silent Mausoleum. It's the final resting place of Empress Yifu. She was forced from the palace into exile and ultimately ordered to take her own life. So this cave became her tomb, a heartbreaking blend of imperial tragedy and Buddhist faith.
But here's the thing. All of this breathtaking beauty, it's fragile. The statues are made of clay, and the mountain itself is always under threat. After standing for 16 centuries, the really big question now is, how do we make sure this irreplaceable treasure is still here for another 1,600 years?
And the challenge is huge. The mountain is constantly being worn down by wind and rain. On top of that, the whole area is seismically active, which means earthquakes are a constant danger to these delicate structures and the priceless art inside them.
So to protect it, scientists are using some seriously futuristic tech. One of the coolest tools is something called cosmic ray muon imaging. Okay, so basically, they use these natural particles from space, called muons, that can pass right through solid rock. By tracking them, they can create a 3D scan of the inside of the mountain, finding hidden cracks without ever having to drill a single hole.
What you get is basically a CT scan for the entire mountain. It's a complete game changer. It lets conservationists see weaknesses deep inside the rock, so they can reinforce those areas before a disaster happens. It's like seeing the future.
But it's not just about one piece of amazing technology. It's this incredible blend of the old and the new. You have a massive network of seismic stations listening for the tiniest tremor, and at the exact same time, you have highly skilled experts doing the slow, painstaking work of repairing damage by hand, a tradition of care passed down through the centuries.
Today, protecting Maijishan is this huge scientific operation. They're using 3D laser scanning to create perfect digital copies, environmental sensors to track the climate inside the caves, drones to inspect every nook and cranny, and even advanced chemistry to stop moss from growing on the statues. It's a total, all-encompassing shield for this fragile wonder.
You know, from the ancient builders who stacked firewood to the sky, to the modern scientists who use particles from space to see through stone, the story of Maijishan has always been about human ingenuity and devotion. This gentle, timeless smile has survived dynasties, earthquakes, and the simple passage of time. And so the question really falls to us now. What are we going to do to make sure it's still here, inspiring the world in another 1,600 years?